Hi everyone, Morgan here. So today I wanted to talk about the concept of you can't be prepared if you live in a city. So I've heard this a lot lately, and a lot of people are always telling people, get out of the city, get out of the city. Now look, I understand the city is a very highly dense population of people, and we've seen during riots and unrest and things like that how quickly things can change. But that's the reason you need to be prepared. You don't have to not live in the city. You just really need to be prepared. I feel like if you live in the city, it's even more reason for you to be prepared, right? You have to have plans in case there's ever unrest in your city. You have to have plans in order to bug out in case you have to leave your home. But that's all common sense, whether you live in the city, a rural, suburban, wherever you live. Now, I will say that when I lived in a rural area, and hold on, before I even go there, I lived in the city longer than I've lived in the rural areas. I've only lived in rural areas about 2-ish years. I've lived in the city the rest of my life. Okay, and I've been on this planet 30 plus years. Don't ask my exact age. Okay, so now when I lived in the rural area, I wasn't as concerned with bugging out unless for fires. Fires were pretty much the only thing that was going to push us out of our house and make us leave. Now, in the city, there could be other things that are going to push you out. So guess what? You should have a plan. Not just a plan of, oh boy, I got a bug out bag, but I got a plan of bug out bag, transportation, best routes, alternative routes, mini routes, as well as where to go, right? I have a blog post that talks all about that down below. So we want to go check that out. But being prepared in the city is absolutely essential. I think the main thing that we all want to keep in mind is bugging in and protecting our homes, right? So even regardless where you live, rural, suburban, urban, you want to be able to protect your home, protect your family in that home, and then protect yourself if you have to leave, that kind of thing. So you always want to have defenses and security in place, regardless of wherever you are, okay? If you think that there's only crazy, wild things that happen in the city, that is naive. It's just straight up naive, okay? There's crazy and crime that also happen in the rural areas. There's drug use, there's all sorts of stuff that happens all over the place, no matter where you live, okay? And then there might be special types of things to be concerned about, like if you live near a border, things like that, other types of things to be concerned with, right? But we also have to keep in mind community. Community is strong. Whether you live in an urban, suburban, or rural area, you want to have a strong community. Because regardless what preppers think, you need people. People need people. Okay? So I've had this discussion before about how, yeah, it's really funny, haha, and it's funny and annoying when people are like, oh, I'm just going to come to your house when SHTF happens. But, honestly, I would have a discussion with them and be like, you know what, if you really want to come over, I'd be happy to have you if you can work, if you can provide stuff for the household, et cetera, et cetera. Because honestly, I may want them as an asset because they could have skills that I have, or maybe they could do some labor that, they could be doing while I'm doing something else. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I'm just going to push everybody out. Now, strangers, of course, that's a little bit different scenario, but I'm saying, now is the time to create that community. Now is the time to create those relationships with your neighbors and community and all these places. And now is the time to get to know your city so you know how to get out if you ever have to, but also not just knowing your city on how to get out, but where are you going to go? Is it going to be a far off bug out location? Is it going to be a friend's house, a family's house? Is it going to be a hotel? Is it going to be a campsite? Where is it going to go? I think that's one of the most important things, because people in the rural areas, if you forget all those people fleeing the urban areas, where do you think they're going, right? Not all those people that are fleeing are going to have a place to go. I can preach to you guys all day, every day. Hey, you got to have plans on where to go. But these people who weren't preppers and they got to leave, where are they going, right? They're going outside of the city. So you're now populating an area that was not as populated before. So the city may have been a super dense populated area, but now that those people are fleeing the city, guess where they're going? Okay. Again, it's naive to think that you are perfectly safe no matter where you are. Yes, you may be safer in certain places. You may be more secure in certain places, but nobody's ever hidden from anybody for 100% of the time. Maybe not right away. Maybe not in a month. Maybe not in a year, depending on the type of whatever situation that's happened, but people will always find other people, right? I read this story once of this guy who had built, or somebody, we don't know who it was, but it was somebody had built this little structure in the middle of a forest, like this dense forest, and there were no trails leading in. Somebody just happened upon it, some kids. They were like, hey, what's this? And they looked around, and it looked like people, there was like cans of food on the wall. There was like a tiny little bed. Like it was this tiny little structure, just enough for like a bed and just to put like a couple little things on the walls. There were like no paths to and from. So this person just literally discovered it. Because they discovered it, and because I guess it was illegal for them to put it up, it was like in the middle of a national forest or something. They put a note on the door that was basically saying, this is going to be demolished or gotten rid of or whatever. It was like 2 days later, it was gone. Gone. Okay. There was like no evidence of people coming in or out, no trails, like nothing. It was like an alien beamed it down and then beamed it back up. It's the wildest thing. You can be as sneaky as you want like that. People are going to find you. Okay. And that person probably moved all of his stuff to another location and just hoping that they're not going to find him there. You know what I mean? And it sucks, but you got to have those contingencies. You have to have the defense. You have to be aware that, you're not always going to be hidden forever. And you have to have that community that's going to help you, not just in that time, but, help back you and support you and be there for you. But again, I kind of wish people would really stop saying you can't be prepared in the city, because it's almost imperative that you are prepared in the city because of all the crap that happens. And remember, I didn't say to rely on your neighbor. I never said to rely on that community to help you. I said that you need to build community as a support system. But when it comes right down to it, you are the only one responsible for you and your family. That's right. Nobody's going to come to save you. Could you possibly rely on them later? Maybe. But always keep in mind that you are only one responsible for you and your family. Even though you may know that your neighbor has that machine or that skill that you may want to use down the future, you shouldn't be relying on it. And so I'll say again, because I want this to be very, very clear. Whether you live in the city, the suburb, or rural area, it's always going to be you, yourself, and your family that you're going to be taking care of. But we should all be preparing, no matter where we live. We should all have emergency disaster plans. We should all have food and water. We should all be growing garden. We should all be looking to local farms. We should all be relying on our own security and self-defense. We should all be having these things put into place to be prepared no matter what happens. We don't all have the means to just get up and leave the city and go to the rural area. You don't have the means. 2, maybe you don't want to leave the city because you have to work. A lot of people can't work remote, or they don't want to work remote, or they still have to live in the city, or maybe they want to live in the city. Who cares, right? You want to live in the city, live in the city. You can live in the city and be prepared in the city. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Bye.